Okay.
All right, I'll see you guys at like 10 after, or like 12 after.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, I thought somebody said something. So we can recap. How has your thinking changed? Does anybody have any ideas or mindsets that are new as far as when you're going to go to negotiate an offer moving forward? Everybody. I'm certainly not the expert, but if I could give any advice, it would just be honestly to get every single thing in writing. It doesn't matter if the listing agent is your best friend. It doesn't matter, if you've got it in a text message, if you go to a house and they say, we're going to leave this, or we're going to fix this, or, it needs to be writing on an addendum somewhere. Because people forget, anything. I would just make sure everything's in writing.
I have learned over the past year that to keep yourself out of the negotiation, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. It's like keep your emotion out of it, because I think emotion really makes things kind of fall apart, and to teach our clients to do that too. And what was it? Dave Jenks says, be the calmest person in the transaction.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that stuck with me when I took one of his classes.
It is very emotional, but right, we just try to keep the emotion out of it. I've had sellers say like prayers, and they'll be like, we'll do, crazy whatever. And they'll say, I just gotta wait. I just gotta like see what name comes to me. And they're like, people do all kinds just to try to just keep the emotion out of it is the best.
My experience in this market from the buyer side is that the rapport you establish with the listing agent up front is very important, because they're drinking from the fire hose and they're trying to manage all the calls, all the emails, their sellers, are going nuts because people are making them go in and out of the house. I try to, I do the calls to find out what the seller's needs are. I tell them that I'm always shooting for a win-win. I'm actually closing next week on a deal where the offers were $25,000 higher than mine. And she picked mine because I knew my buyer very well. I explained to the buyer that sometimes the listing agents are nervous because they're scared that, somewhere within the mortgage approval process, things are going to fall apart. So I always ask them for their permission. Basically not giving away any confidential information, but would you mind if the listing agent contacted your loan officer to just give them a general idea of how well qualified you are? I offer that to the listing agent up front. I put it in the letter that I send it to them. Definitely find out what their motivations are of when they need to move. I try to make it as seamless as possible, and I try to tell the listing agent, because I've been on their side, and I know how it feels. So I try to tell them, give them I call it butter in the toast, but basically, show them that I'm willing to work with them, not against them, and that I understand where they're coming from. And that actually, the reason why we got it was, number one, this listing agent knew her market. She was obviously the thing I talked about, the appraisals, but she finally came back. There were ones that were close to me in my price range, and she said, you know your buyer better than anybody else, and you offered me the opportunity to call their lender, and I'm not going to, but you're the only one who offered that.
That's great. Does anybody have any feel like big wins for negotiating? I mean, that was obviously a big win for you. Does anybody else have something that they feel like could help others when putting offers together that they think are big wins, or something they've seen?
The other thing is I'm seeing on the listing side, agents are getting sloppy with their paperwork. So when you said, make sure your paperwork's clean, make sure everything's filled out correctly, make sure you're not organize it in a way that they want to see it. Obviously, I do an executive summary, I call it. And I put my offer in a PDF in a very specific way. They don't want to see all the disclosure forms first. Don't make it hard for the listing agent to figure out what's going on.
Right, don't make it impossible to find your escalation clause either. If you're gonna add an escalation clause, I feel like it needs to be top, the very first thing they see, or right underneath the actual contract. I can't tell you how many contracts I get, and I have to search for their escalation clause in between their company's franchise disclosure and their, I just think, I mean, you'd hate for yours to get missed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
this-
call the busy paperwork. I put that on the back end. I start off, if the EMD is strong, I'll put that first, then I put the contract in there. And then I put their pre-approval letter right after it. That's my process every single time.
Michelle with EMD.
Earnest money deposit, it's their down payment, it's their deposit that they have to submit with, it's the check that they have to submit with their offer. And don't put down 1,000 in Capital District, $1,000 or 1,500 doesn't cut it anymore. You gotta be a little more, like Tabitha said, you have to have a solid EMD, earnest money deposit, where you show the seller that you're serious. You gotta put enough money down so that they know you're not gonna just walk away, because in our market specifically, we don't do this. Number one, Sarah will kill me if I don't say that. There are other brokerages that are submitting multiple offers because their buyers can afford to lose $1,000. So they're bidding on two houses, basically. Do not do that with Keller Williams, but so that is helping some of these listing agents understand that your buyer's more serious than these $1,000, $1,500 checks that are flying around.
Okay. And I don't know what like contract specific, but I know like at least at the Syracuse market, we have a 3-day attorney approval period. So they wouldn't lose any deposit. And I do know that in our market, you can't lose the deposit. It's pretty tough to lose the deposit. You know, I've got a deal that's gone south, it's been 3 months, buyers cannot get financing, and they're gonna get their entire $5,000 deposit back, minus abstract and updating costs, but.
Yeah, this isn't a higher, this is more luxury numbers too. We're seeing it. They're literally going through attorney approval and another house, especially, I know one that happened with another agent, actually last week, where, they put down $1,000, another house came on the market in the exact neighborhood that they wanted. They're like, just get out of it. They called their attorney and said, get me out of this contract. So they walked away from $1,000 just because they wanted it, but there were no houses in that market. So this was their third option, and they finally said, forget it, it's worth it. But yeah, you're right about the attorney approval too.
The other thing too that I think is kind of important is obviously consumers can find listings anywhere, Zillow, Realtor, but as soon as my client goes under contract, I turn off their search to try to stop that. If they see something else somewhere else, that's great, but I've had it a couple times where it pushes to them, it's from me, and they're like, oh my gosh, what about this house? And I'm like, we're already under contract on, 123 Main Street, and they want to see it. So the second I have, or as soon as I can, I do disable their search and stop those pushes and let them know that if we're under contract, I cannot legally show you another home. And if a friend sends something to them or they see it on Zillow or something, I guess that's another story, but don't be the reason that they want to continue to look at homes because they feel like you're pushing them, because that makes it seem like it's okay for them to keep looking because the email came directly from you. And I've had people say that, they're like, well, why did you send it to me? So I think it's good to turn that off or disable it. And then if they, something happens, you can just turn it right back on, but just to disable it so that they feel good about their decision and they can stop continuing to look.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
All right. I think we've talked about this quite a few times, but your 10s, adding 10 contacts, 10 conversations, 10 handwritten notes, previewing 10 homes.
I have a question to put out to you and the group. So I am searching for a cabin in the woods for a friend of ours. So there's not a lot of comps out there that I can compare it to, but this house was bought 3 years ago for 125, and now they've got it on the market for 325 without many upgrades. I think they put in a new floating floor. So when I contact this agent, because it's been on the market for 6 days now, no delayed negotiations, what are some of the questions that I would ask this agent?
Can you tell me what are the prices again? They bought it for,
They bought it for 125 3 years ago. So I looked at the history listing to look at the pictures,
and it looks the same.
and it pretty much looks the same with maybe some updated floating floor from what I can see. No kitchen update. But they're listing it at 325 now, so $200,000 more.
Okay. Is it on the water?
It's across from the water. This is up in Pulaski near the Salmon River, because we have a place up near there too.
I
So
have a cute little place for sale in Williamstown for $39,900.
I look at that,
You did?
but no, I probably did. They snowmobilers, so they want to be on the snowmobile trail and probably a little bit more north than that.
Okay.
But I was thinking, of negotiating tools. He's like, I'm willing to look at it if they might be willing to come down, because from what I can see, it's certainly not worth a $200,000 increase.
What do your buyers think it's worth?
They were thinking maybe 175,
Okay.
which is a huge difference in price.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, taking this class, how can I, kind of talk with the selling agent and negotiate maybe, or find out what their tactics are as to why they're.
I would just ask her, like, what improvements have they made in the last 3 years to, for a $200,000 price increase? That seems drastic.
Yeah.
And just ask them. And maybe they did put in a new, did you look at the other disclosures? Is like anything new? Like, did they lift it up and put a new foundation down? Did they, just trying to figure out, did they connect it to public water and there was no water? Was there not electricity? And now there is. I'm just trying to see like what could be a big ticket item that would make them think that it was worth 200,000 more.
I did look through the disclosure and I don't see anything.
Sometimes I like to say, which I don't think is aggressive. I say, oh, I said, is that your price or your seller's price? Because sometimes listing agents, like if I'm embarrassed about how much I listed a property for and it's an agent I know, I'm like, yeah, I was like, not my price. And just get an idea, like they know that it's out of whack too, or let them justify it and just see what they say. And I also like to just say, are they willing to negotiate on the price? Because we know if our sellers are or not. We still have those sellers that say, oh, we're going to list at 325 and like that's where we're going to start. And they really want 300. Some of those buyer or sellers still exist. And I see that a lot more. Hopefully I'm allowed to say this, but I see that a lot more in the country than I do in the city. Where the sellers think they can start high and negotiate, even though we tell them what the market is. I grew up in Mexico. We had an apartment complex in Pulaski, so I feel like I can say this about the area because I did grow up there. And I just think a lot of my buyers and sellers out in the more rural parts seem to think that they can still list high and negotiate down. And so maybe find out if that's what their mindset is, especially if they don't have any other offers. Is it year-round living?
It is, I believe it's off-grid. Let me look.
Can you Airbnb it?
Well, that's what the write-up says you can do.
Okay. So maybe that's where they're getting their numbers. They're thinking, oh, I can rent this for this amount per week, so it's worth this. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Because I think Airbnb wasn't around like it was 3 years ago.
I would ask them if they actually have Airbnb'd it already. And asked what the rents were.
And you can probably even look that up if they have. You just pull up the address on Airbnb. And then you can pull up the calendar and see how many days are left and see if it's even something people are renting. If it's already on the website.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that that could have been a potential for income because of the location across from the Salmon River.
Is your buyer wanting to Airbnb it?
No, he wants to use it for personal use.
Okay. I wonder, would he be open to Airbnb-ing it when he's not there?
I don't think so. I could ask.
Just like as a way to maybe like him to come up and them to, you know what I mean? If he knows he can make a little bit of money on it and it's an investment and something to enjoy.
Yeah.
Because you can, with the Airbnb, he can say nobody can rent it for this weekend, this weekend, this weekend, this weekend, and only advertise it for the weekends he's not planning to be there.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that or not. So if it's like 4th of July weekend or like a big hunting weekend and he knows him and his friends are going to be there, he just blocks it out completely.
Right.
I don't know if he'd be willing to come up more in price if he knew that there was some supplemental income that he could make to offset it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good strategy that I could, you know, maybe he is willing to do that.
Is a listing agent an agent you know or you've heard of before?
I don't, but it's the same listing agent that sold the previous listing on it,
Sold it to them.
sold it to them.
And she was a listing agent then too?
Yes.
So she probably knows the area. So I would see where she came up with the number.
Because I was curious to see if she was the previous listing agent.
So she was the previous listing agent. She sold it to this buyer and she's listing it again. Lucky girl.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would start there and just because she obviously knows the area, she knows the property. Ask her, you know, where she came up with 325.
Okay.
Is the 325 negotiable or is the seller pretty set on that? I tried to pull comps and I noticed that they bought it for just 125 a couple years ago. And then I would just like stop talking and let her respond.
Yeah. Great, that's helpful.
Should we all pull it up and say we have somebody if they're interested around 150? And then she'll think she got a lot of calls and everybody thinks it's overpriced. We could
Yeah.
all take turns and call.
136 Sheepskin Road.
I'd be like, yeah, you know, it just seems really overpriced. And then after she gets 20 calls today, she'll maybe let her seller know.
Yeah, it's an outlier.
Yeah, that's where the one I have for 39.9 is. I wouldn't use that as a comp, but be like, yeah, Tabitha has one for 39.9. I'm just trying to figure out.
Is that just land? 39?
No, it's got like a little cabin on it too. And people think that's overpriced.
I think what's the address?
On 176 Garcia. Yeah, people think it's overpriced because you know why? Because it's cash only. So people call and they say, oh, like, does Keller Williams do financing? Or, oh, I'll get a mortgage. And you can't get a mortgage because there's no utilities.
Right.
So we can probably fly through this. So scripts are obviously important. Learning how to utilize and personalize them. Oh, we're going to do script practice. This is telling you to do the do not call registry, but we don't know how.
Well, for Brighton, I asked Chris and she responded. She said you go to the in the know folder and the ID and password are in there and follow the directions that she's got.
Oh, is the
for Capital Region, I've been trying to do it for like 3 weeks. It's telling me I have to be an organizer. I don't know. So I ran it by everyone, and I think I spoke with Sarah. I think she's going to try to figure it out. So
Yeah, it does say on these instructions that you have to,
I have to have like all these numbers, and I have to be an organizer, and then I have to have an executive for it, and it's making me fill in all this different stuff.
Mm.
And it's, yeah.
so it doesn't sound like any of us have been successful at doing that.
Long story short. Also, Tabitha, this is so cute.
Thank you. It's,
I
you know,
want-
it's cell phone pictures, which I don't usually do, but
I
it is
want
so
this little shack. That's adorable. Or not shack, cabin, I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's a seasonal cabin. No, it is. It's cute. I've gotten a couple offers on it, but nothing my seller wants to take. So
Oh my God.
How did you spell the street name?
Garcia, Garcia, 176.
Oh, that is cute.
Yeah, it's unangled because there was like a huge gross camper on the left that I couldn't get in the picture, but the camper's gone. But there's no utilities at the road, like, or electricity, so you can't add utilities. It's tricky though, because one of the pictures you see a light on.
Yeah.
But he has a generator.
Ah,
Huh.
I just feel like for 35, 40, I just think that is a steal.
Right. And then
But-
do whatever you want to it.
Because you can do a generator and he watches TV in there. He's got heat in there. He's got like a little space
Is
heater.
that like where he lives?
He likes to live there, but he hasn't. Well, he wants to buy a house, but he needs the down payment.
Okay. Aw.
I just thought it would kind of go quick because everybody's looking for like their little like piece of land. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's so nice because it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's near 81-ish. So.
yeah.
So it's like an escape where if you needed to go somewhere, it would be easy to get to.
Yeah.
That's like the perfect place. Come on.
I feel like it's great. I don't know.
I'll have to look and see where it's located on how far north for snowmobiling and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, these activities hour. So you guys can call each other and do scripts after if you want to. This, I don't know why this says this, right? Does this always say this now for an hour, a half hour, another half hour? I don't know. I can't imagine that you're not supposed to for an hour call each other doing script practice, but
Is Chris here? I think we haven't we been doing like 10, 15 minutes instead of half an hour? Chris, is that what we've been
Yeah,
doing?
y'all been doing just breakout rooms, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And just going over script practice. So,
I mean, anyone who hates me for saying that, sorry, but
yeah, no,
oh,
it's,
no, an hour and the next thing says a half hour and the next, I'm like, we don't have all that time.
right.
All right, well, we can break into groups and just kind of go over a couple scripts, and then I'd love to know what scripts you guys like and which scripts you're using that you think are great. And then I guess, are you using scripts that are provided to you, or have you kind of created your own and made them your own?
We have scripts in the toolkit. So everyone got the scripts before Ignite. So normally what you would do is tell us which script you want us to practice. So that way when we get into breakout rooms, we all know what script we're going to practice. We're not like all trying to spend 10 minutes figuring it out, because that's really.
Is there one that people are it's most important to you? Is there one about negotiating? If there's somebody, the first person to tell me which one they want to work on, we will work on that one.
There's some for making and receiving offers.
Okay, let's do that. What
on
page is that on?
20 of, it's in this elemental script book.
Okay,
So it's on page 20. When the buyer wants repairs, when the buyer wants to make a low offer, present the initial offer, present a low offer. There's like 6 of them, page 20 through 22.
okay, let's focus on those then. Let's break out for like 10, 15 minutes and then we'll talk about those scripts.
So there's also negotiation scripts on page 23 too. So I don't know which one is better.
Yeah, I just saw that too. Maybe we should do that since that's where we're at now, page 23,
Okay,
23 through 25, or 23 through 24, something like that. No, just page 23.
okay, page 23. Chris, are you gonna break out everybody?
Yep.
Everybody that's left, I've lost a few.
Yeah, it's scattered. All right, I'm breaking y'all out now. Wow. Yeah, because everybody scattered, I had to reconfigure all the rooms.
Yeah, where did everybody go? They don't like.
So they're agreeing to put that 5,000 down as well as that 10,000 or that 10%.
I missed half of that, but I think you were right in saying,
They're agreeing to put $5,000 down as well as that 10%.
so the 5,000 was cash up front, and then plus their deposit, and the rest they're gonna mortgage.
Gotcha. Okay.
Tabitha, I like all your little things on the bottom.
See?
Yeah, I like the way you set it up.
Oh, thank you. I forget you can see my screen.
Yes.
I'm multitasking here. I'm in my dot loop. It's my daughter.
Oh, she's cute.
All right, so how did it go with the script practice? Any ahas or anything anybody wants to share?
We did kind of have a question.
Okay,
So with the inspection, do they typically give you like a price? On like, if there's something that needs to be fixed, will that inspection have a price range on there, or is that they just kind of tell you what's needed to be fixed?
Some home inspectors will say, oh, the hot water tank is at the age of its life. It's probably gonna cost you, $600, $700, $800 to get it replaced. That's something that your home inspectors should be able to give you numbers on, unless it's out of their scope. If it's electrical or plumbing or something like that, you might have to call an electrician and just say, hey, we've got a bunch of GFI outlets that aren't grounded. How much would that cost to have that done? Some stuff I've found that if it is an item that's small, I can just Google it and I find a price, on Home Depot or something for the part to be replaced.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we just weren't sure if it was like more of like a ballpark, like how specific, I guess it was, or if they did even give you a price at all, or if that was just kind of for you to come up with, or if that's more for your client to come up with.
I think if it's in their scope of work, they can give you an update, but I know like in the past, I've had like some electrical stuff come up and the home inspector will not give a price for it because they just don't know how much it's going to cost for an electrician to come out. Especially with all the prices of everything going up right now, I think people are probably nervous to give a number. But I think you could definitely call like a local electrician and just say, hey, our electrical panel needs to be updated. It needs this, 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 and this. Can you give me an idea of what that would cost?
Okay. Thank
So
you.
I have just a real life experience from selling our house 2 years ago. The buyer's inspector did list, prices that they thought something was going to cost. And there were issues with a sub panel in the garage that they said estimated it was like $1,500 to $2,000 worth of repairs. We called 2 electricians, had them come out, and we made $150 worth of repairs, and we were good to go. So a lot of these inspectors,
They shouldn't.
I don't think they know everything.
No, because that's not their, that's not their, that's like me saying like, oh, your mortgage payment's gonna be this amount. That's not our lane. They can do the inspection, but unless they're also a licensed electrician and can fix it, I don't think they should be giving pricing.
Yeah.
I think they should be educated and have an idea, but obviously that inspector was way off. And that could have even killed the deal for them to see that number, you know what I mean? And not wanted to move forward and thought it was something more serious than it was, so.
So as the agent, as the buyer's agent, we should be providing that value to our client to try to find out what those would cost if they don't know.
Yes. And I don't know if at your market center, you have like a list of allied partners, but if you had an allied partner on the list that was an electrician, I would probably reach out to them first. They're probably going to be the most helpful to give you free information, and then hopefully your client would move forward and use them as well. But that's what they are set up to do. They pay to be on our contracts. They pay for us to use them as a resource.
Okay, that's good to know, because I know if you call traditionally just someone out of the blue, they really don't want to give you pricing because they want to go out and see the actual project.
Right. If they feel like you're just trying to get a quote and you don't want them to do the work, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to get them out there.
Yeah.
Or they might charge you $100 to come out and just say, if you use us, we'll take the $100 off the bill. But I think it's becoming tough to get somebody to just come out and take a free look. Because it's their time, it's their gas, it's their,
Right.
Can I ask a question? Are the allied partners that the market centers, are they vetted somehow, or like that that they're actually going to do good work, or can anyone who pays to be on the list be on the list?
Great question. I think that anybody that wants to pay to be on the list is on the list. Chris, is that true?
Sorry, I misheard you. What's that?
For the allied partner list, we were saying that if there was an issue with something, we probably want to reach out to our allied partners first and, talk to them and try to use them. And somebody had asked me are we vetting them, or they're just like, anybody that wants to be on our list is on our list if they pay to be on our list?
That I don't know.
I think
Uh,
anybody that wants to be on our list that pays to be on our list. is
I
probably
think,
on our
yeah.
list. I know that we have a Facebook page that we have like for Syracuse Market, and if somebody has a question and they need an electrician, they'll just say, hey, has anybody used a local electrician, or has anybody used the electrician on our, Allied Partners list? And that's a good resource to just ask other people in your market center if they've used them. Do you guys have something like that set up?
We use that all the time, and in Capital District,
Mhm.
we're constantly putting requests out, and there's also another one, there's a main one, not with Keller Williams, for Capital District real estate agents. So there's a lot of information shared back and forth, and that's where I get my stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I needed a cider to fix after the windstorm we had here in Rochester, and some of the siding blew off on the house I was selling. So I just went onto the Facebook page, and someone said, oh, try such and such person. I called them, came out, fixed it. It was great.
Yeah, the Allied Partners is a great place to start, but then I would also ask other people in your office who they have used and have liked. Because it's, you don't want to just hand over a random name, you know what I mean? Your buyer could have done that themselves, you know what I mean, using Google. So it'd be nice to say, oh, Elizabeth in the office said that she used, ABC Contracting for her listing and they were amazing. Do you feel like the scripts come natural, or do you feel like some of them sound pretty scripty, or you're changing the wording a little bit?
I think right now for me, reading it exactly how it is on there is just getting me more familiar with it, but it's not necessarily exactly how I would say things.
Because we want to make it our own, but we still want to use the same content, so. Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions on anything they want to talk about as far as like writing an offer, negotiating, or something else that they're having an issue with right now that they kind of want to mastermind about before we hang up? A conversation that I'm having a hard time with, I'll just tell you, is with buyers. So I've got somebody right now, she's like, we're moving from Utica. We want to purchase a home ASAP. My husband just got a job here. We're looking around 200,000. And what I'm struggling to tell people is like, oh, well, we can't really look around 200. If you want to buy around 200, we really need to be looking around the 150 mark. And I think that's a difficult conversation to have with buyers, but I think it's important to set that expectation up front, because we really can't be running around looking at houses that are 200,000 if they can spend 200,000. Would you agree?
Right.
Anybody having trouble with that conversation? I'm like embarrassed a little bit to tell people that, but it's not me, right? It's the market. I'm just delivering the information. But I have to make a call at 12 to these people, and I think they're going to want to set up on a search. Probably if they can go 200, they're probably thinking 210. And I have to really kind of tell them we need to look at houses that are probably 170 and under. Are you telling your buyers that? To set
Yeah, one of
expectations?
the trainings we had the other day, or maybe it was I listened to that Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook page with James Shaw because I want to squeeze him. He's so adorable. But, somebody said somewhere, and it kind of was like, it changed the way I talk about the market, was that, I think it was Allie. You're in competition with the buyers. The buyers are driving this. The sellers aren't driving this. You have multiple buyers. Basically, lending is free, basically, at the end of the day. It's never been like this, and you have low inventory. So your competition, which is the other buyers, are making it more difficult for you. And that's been a big change for how I present it even from the beginning, because everyone comes in and goes, oh, it's a seller's market. And I'm just like, it is a limited inventory, low interest rate market. It is very escalated. It's very fast. But at the end of the day, the buyers are the ones who are driving the prices up in the market, period, end of story. So, and then James Shaw had this thing about ready, willing, and able to play in this market to win. So you level set it that way. And it's helped me too, because I got really sick of hearing it was a seller's market, because I knew that it was the case that the buyers were driving this. And then you have out of town people from the city who want to escape from New York. You know, I even tell them that they're coming up with cash because they see these houses as dirt cheap, no matter how ridiculous you think it is. So level setting their opinions and their, you know, their misinformation has helped me. And then I have the conversation of, and because it's a heightened market for you, if the goal is for you to get a house in this market, this is how you have to play in the market to win. And then it kind of takes the emotion out of it, and you stop getting mad at the sellers every 5 seconds. And so that's what's helped me. And then cause I was the same way, because I felt like a jerk saying, hey, you know, you're approved for, like I told you, that 251. And then I go into how much can they truly afford at the end of the day too. That helps me kind of level set them as well. Because everybody looks at the top dollar amount, but most likely statistically, you know, even the ones who say, I'm going to live here forever. I'm like, well, statistically, you know, if you're a certain age, you're going to either move in 3 to 5 years or 7 to 10 years.
Right. Yeah. I know people are always like, I'm gonna live here forever. And I'm thinking, yeah, probably 5 years.
Yeah. And then if they start talking about 2008, I tell them, you know, the banks, that whole thing happened because the banks were just like, basically, oh, here, I don't care how much you make. Here's all the money that you need. I said, so you need to be a smart buyer. We need to figure out what you can afford on a month-to-month basis. It doesn't matter over 30 years if you can't afford that payment every single month. I said, and you know, the best thing that my agent told me when I bought my first house, they were saying it was like a relationship. You know, there's certain things you're going to love about it. And then as you get to know the house and understand it, just like your partner, there's going to be little things that might drive you crazy, but if you love them enough, then you're going to forgive them. So when something breaks, you got to love the house enough not to like it for that month when you write the check.
Okay, I like that too.
And they have to have enough money saved up to pay for that stuff too.
All right. Anyone else have anything they want to mention before we take off for the day? Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for staying on for the long haul. And if, you know, I said this last time, I think everybody looks familiar from last time, but if you ever have a question, I don't know everything, but I've sold quite a few houses. So if you have any questions or ever want to, you know, run something past me, I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much, Tabitha.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Chris.